in terms of communication style and her judging, do people want to comment? Did you understand the research? So she was checking in, basically, did she understand, she was looking at the relative balance of folate and low methylation. Now the one word I think she did not explain, especially to a lay audience, is methylation. She kind of alluded to it, but I'm still a little unclear on what methylation is. Do you know what its significance? In her case, she didn't have to work very hard to make significance. She's trying to reduce the incidence of bowel cancer and the role of folate in bowel cancer. So she didn't have to work very hard in convincing her audience on the importance of her research. Did it enhance the presentation? Thoughts? Okay, I see head nodding. Did she use some kind of story to enhance, to help us understand her research? What would you give her on a scale of 1 to 10 for comprehension?
Pretty high, like 9 or something.
Probably a 9, I would give, I wish we don't have the facilities, but I wish it was like the Olympics and all the scores just flash up on the screen. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Not for you guys who are presenting, but you watch those swimmers and so they come out and then they're watching the stage and then all the scores flash up. Engagement. How many of you want to know more about her research?
Yeah. I don't know how it turned out.
How it turned out, yes. Did she dumb down her research? No. She was very, she talked about it, and yet she didn't present in a way that we couldn't understand, but she didn't dumb it down either. She was definitely enthusiastic about her work. I mean, reason I picked her video, when I started working on this topic, I picked her video initially was it had the most hits on YouTube. And that's kind of what I used as my little scientific, which is the most part of all the videos that are out in the 3MT. Hers was the most number of hits. And of course, we've added to that in the last few months. And did it capture and maintain the audience attention? You know what, I'm amazed when I watch her video. In 3 minutes, and I think you will agree with me, she got a lot of information packed in there. And that's amazing how much, and I don't know about you guys, but my attention span is about 2 minutes. And after about 3 minutes, I kind of tune most people out. So if you're going on, then you're probably tuning me out right now. But attention span, especially on a topic like that, you can take so much, especially when you're talking to going to the Arizona State Legislature. I'd love to invite all the legislators to this event, and so I'm trying.
You get 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes. So, okay. Language was appropriate, title was appropriate, did she use sufficient eye contact? It's hard to tell in a video whether she was looking at different people, but she moved. Brent talked about it too. Brent talked about not moving, and you saw she didn't really move. She used a lot of hand gestures. What do you think about her hand gesture? Do you think it was over the top? Was appropriate? Was it, should she have done more, less? And she kind of, if you notice her hand gestures when she was talking about how the methylation forms, and she used this, and that helped kind of understand. So she used that to illustrate a point, when she used that hand gesture. She didn't use jargon for the most part. She spent enough time on each element. If she went on and on about the bread, you're like, okay, is this really about the bread? The bread was quick. Probably, I want to say it was 15 seconds, And did it enhance the PowerPoint? We've already talked about that. So, very, she's somebody who would probably get a 30-point scale, probably a 27 or a 28, really, really high. And I cannot emphasize enough when you write your script and you do it, keep going over and over. 3 minutes seems like a piece of cake, but this is not a last-minute project. This is something you You do it now, and then you keep rehearsing, and you'll be correcting and cleaning it up. Do the heavy lifting right now, is my advice to you, because then you're refining, and it'll just get better and better and better. The beauty of 3 minutes is, it's just, as I said, my script was 1 page, so you're condensing the content. It's not this overwhelming, huge presentation you're working on, but you're putting the most important aspects, and then you can refine it. So if you do your heavy lifting now, you're just going to get better and better at it when the time comes. Questions, comments? Anyone else wants to add something that maybe I didn't pick up or address that you noticed?
One thing I noticed is she really did this thing where it was like extremely complex, and then it went to like the mini guts, and then how she's talking about in the petri dish, and then also talking about the bread. So there's this infusion of different, I guess, techniques of communicating that. I mean, balancing that seems like the most difficult part. So having these examples, which I don't know, I kind of like the mini guts thing. I don't know, it seemed kind of weird, but kind of cool.
And very colorful,
yeah,
so it
exactly.
kind of captured your attention. And as you all know, I think we've mentioned this before, it's in the guideline, the finalists, so not all 30, the finalists will be on YouTube. And so you guys don't be the same person watching it over and over to get those hits up. But send it to all your relatives and friends, and and so people can learn about what you're doing. It will be exciting. Your family members like, wow, we actually get to see and hear and maybe even understand some of the research that you're doing. How many of you have had family members who have no idea what you're doing? Almost everybody, My parents still don't know what I do. They're like, yeah, she does this thing at the, they know I have this job, and they're very proud of me, but they have no idea what I do, It's like, okay, whatever. So, okay, we're going to see, I don't think I've seen this one, right?
So,
this is a good one or bad one? Okay.
Lynette Ryan, speaking of age, respect, and movies.
Close your eyes for a moment and imagine an old person. Any old person will do. Now, replace that image with a picture of Helen Mirren with a huge machine gun. That second picture was not nearly as comfortable for you as the first. That is because Helen Mirren, at 68 years old, has crossed that imaginary line, her 65th birthday. She is now defined in the Western world, including Australia, as elderly or older. I'm taking a qualitative, three-pronged approach to my empirical work. I have interviewed older people to see how they feel. You may be surprised to learn they don't feel like either Helen Mirren or Bruce Willis toting machine guns. Well, maybe not. However, they also don't feel like this image up on your top left. I'm also doing a content analysis of movies from the last 5 years that have been big box office successes and have included a character aged 55 years or older. 55 because in Hollywood, that imaginary line is your 40th birthday. As you can see, these movies don't always portray people in a stereotypical fashion as old, grumpy, frail, vulnerable, useless, having to use either a walker or a walking stick. The last part of my research will be an analysis of attitudinal data of our younger people towards our older population to see whether they feel that respecting older people is important. My research is significant because it impacts the quality of life of more than 14.4% of Australia's population. according to the ABS, as at July 2012, by 2030, it will be nearly a quarter of Australia's population. I'm hoping that my research will contribute to improving the quality of life of older people in Australia. I'm hoping to contribute to this in a small but significant way, and interesting as well, I hope. And remember this, it's your future I'm researching. Thank you very much.
Maybe before, let's just pause a few thoughts. Comprehension. Did you understand what her research was about?
Did you? I've watched it a couple times and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what she's researching. Okay, see, I see some other things with her.
I think I understood the goal of her research. She wants people to be respectful of older people, you know, and so she's doing a content analysis of films, and so her methodology she talked about. What was one of the significant things about the communication that you noticed?
Her rhythm and pacing was very choppy.
I thought she was very nervous. Her voice was shaky.
Yeah.
The whole presentation, her voice shook, you know. And I've had it happen to me when I presented, especially in my especially when I went to conferences. And I remember, when was this? This was like, you know, I was at a big national, especially national conferences, and I got up and my knees started shaking and my voice got wobbly, you know. Have you ever had the wobbly voice syndrome? And you know, it was just like, you could feel the tremor in the voice.
I guess I thought that she had some developmental or disability or something, that's how she...
Oh.
I thought she just had like a really hoarse, quiet voice and she was trying to speak loud.
Oh, okay. Maybe. I mean, so these are all, we don't know that.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, that
But
still
those-
cuts into your comprehension because you have people struggling to understand what you're saying.
Sure. Oh, sure.
Because that sort of diminishes the point that she's trying to make. Because it's very, you end up focusing more on her speech pattern rather than on what she's actually doing.
And so a
You
lot of
lose
us came up with
comprehension.
different hypotheses regarding her voice.
Well, I mean, I completely agree that that might just be her voice, but
Mhm.
that is very difficult to communicate a point.
And that's where the recording part comes in so handy. You can record yourself and then listen. You will, you know, hear your speech patterns and hear how fast you go, or how slow you're speaking, or how you maybe jumble up certain words that are longer, or maybe you have difficulty pronouncing it or enunciating those words. So Kirsten picked the videos. Kirsten, you picked that video because you thought it was a great one, or lots of
I did not think it was that great. I had a hard time, so I spent a lot of time on YouTube the past couple of days, but when you look at it, it's mostly the people who are either the winners of the finals or the winners of the semifinals. So I had to dig a little deeper to just find some preliminary heats, and so I watched quite a few from that university, and some of them were great, but some of them were not. And I chose her because of the fact that I thought it was really, I was focusing more on her speaking pattern rather than what she was actually saying. And I thought she could have looked a little more professional. And I thought her slide, it had some text on it. And the way we'll do your slides is we'll have a feed of the slides as well as video recording, so then when they post them, it'll go back and forth between showing like an actual picture of your slide and showing you. So it won't be the scanning to view it. So that'll be a little bit better. But I thought that her slide really wasn't that great. And so that's why I chose that presentation. And so I think we're ready to move on to the next one.
Parents and teachers have become increasingly concerned about girls following the 2006 advent of Facebook. It's been blamed for a rise in bullying and a decline in social skills. My research, however, takes a slightly different approach and looks at three things: grade 8 girls, identity, and Facebook's most commonly used feature, status updates. It's based on a simple and age-old premise. If all the world's a stage, then surely Facebook is just another stage on which actors can perform. And what do all actors want? Desirable reactions from their audiences. This involves trying a number of different strategies on Versailles. Should I present myself as kind, needy, self-sacrificial, talented, intimidating? So, dramaturgical metaphor in hand, I set about answering two questions. First, which of these strategies are grade 8 girls using in their status updates? And second, how and why are grade 8 girls using their status updates more broadly? I used a mixed methods approach, and 349 surveys, 9 interviews, and 445 status updates later, I had some answers. I collected updates ranging from long weekend, yay, to piss off, to how do people just have sex with complete strangers? I can't even order pizza over the phone. And I coded these status updates according to the strategies these girls were using to present themselves. While you would expect that bullying and attention seeking would rate highly, they didn't. Girls most commonly presented themselves as likeable by using flattery and compliments. And this is exactly what happens in offline settings. You see, girls need to maintain synergy between their online and offline identities. Why? Because everything you say on Facebook can be used against you in the court of social approval. When I asked the girls why they updated their own statuses, they said, just to let other people know what I'm doing if I'm bored. But when I asked them why other people updated their statuses, they said, she'll just do anything to get attention. She just wants the boys to like her. This might explain why more than 30% of the girls in my study reported updating their statuses at least once per day. Because status updates will be interpreted differently by every audience member, identities are in a constant state of flux. Identity becomes less a question of who am I, and more a question of what do you see in me, what do you want in me. My research challenges the fearful notion of an authentic offline identity and an inauthentic online identity. It shows that, like the classroom, Facebook is just another space for girls to experiment with their identities and gauge the reactions of others. So, if there's one message we should be sending to grade 8 girls on Facebook, know your audience. Thank you.
So they use the bell. Thoughts, comments? What are some of the things you got from her?
Her research lends itself very well to being performed.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say, I thought she was a little too animated. It was almost like distracting in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
And very prepared. Every one of her gestures was planned out on the exact word for that first minute.
Uh-huh.
Seemed a little mechanical.
So it seems staged. But how many of you want to know more about what she?
Did she violate one of the cardinal rules?
What do you say?
No sex?
Yeah, I know she.
I mean, it's hard because she's talking about Facebook, which everyone already knows about.
Facebook and
yeah,
status updates. And so, she did. I mean, there might be a very conservative person in the audience who might get offended, but that's kind of the reality. So.
She seemed to express herself clearly, and she said, she studied 2 things, and then she went about explaining what the results were, basically, and you could follow the sequence of her study.
And she talked about her data, the number of subjects, the interviews she did. So you got all that. She did her research questions. She said 1, 2. Methodology, 3, 4. Number of subjects. But if you think about your paper, if you're looking at a research article, participants, yes. And then the findings. And then kind of the why it's important. So she got all her facts in, and that's a lot of information in 3 minutes. It's amazing, when I talked to this, how can you get it all in? And boy, you can get a lot of information in 3 minutes. So, and her title, all the World Wide Web's a stage. That's interesting. Here, girls' self-presentation, identities, formation, status updates. So, very interesting. Are we watching anymore? That's it. So, what are your thoughts, fears, questions you may have?
I just think one of the biggest challenges for me is kind of encompassing like this really interesting research within like an approachable bubble. You know, because it seems like with her, I mean, there was this amazing core research, and then surrounding it was this really like friendly and personable kind of way of doing it. So I guess thinking of it that way, like there's a core and then, you know, this bubble that needs to be approachable, which, yeah, just navigating that's been kind of difficult already.
Yeah, and I think the more you think about it and the more you present, ideas will come to mind, you know, things will, and as, you know, as I was thinking of even, you know, for most of us who are in academia, we're always presenting. And I'm always thinking, how can I relate it to my audience? How can I make it more interesting and relevant and something that they can connect to? Not just the thought in my head, you know, when we use the sex politics. And I was thinking, and then I thought of this example. And the more I think about it, especially in the shower, that's a good place to think. You get a lot of good ideas. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I remember a time when my sons and you know, they got dinged, and I mean, they lost, and this was at the state level, they lost points and couldn't go on, and everyone thought they were a sure winner, you know.
So making those kind of the approachability acceptable at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then things come to your mind, you know. You all are smart people, and ideas will come, and the more you think, and you find a connection, and so you know, kind of coming up with your outline, you know, and then you're talking to your research librarian, maybe getting what's going on and making sure you've done your research, and coming up with your outline, and then kind of building your slide and touching it a little bit every day. You know, don't just do it in one big, because then it's going to be crammed and it's not going to have all the elements, because things will, you know, you'll dream about it and ideas will come to you. So let's talk a little bit about, you wanted to go over the timeline?
Yes. So the last sheet is the timeline, and really a lot of the work is done in March. So at the end of this PowerPoint presentation, there's links to how to contact your research librarian, which you guys also received those in the email that I sent out. And then there's also links for scheduling time in either this room or the other presentation rooms that they have. They have other presentation rooms where you can record yourself right there and play it back. So there's a lot of resources right here. So if you are interested in those, which you should be, and I encourage you to use them, you do need to go ahead and set up those appointments now. I would recommend, if I was going to do this, I would record myself next week. I record myself 2 times the next week and 2 times each week after that, and just kind of see, and not just record it for me to watch it, but also to have someone else watch it. I think the thing that we've really stressed the most here is practice, practice, practice. So it's not necessarily rehearsed, but so that it looks like what you're saying and what you're doing is natural. The important deadlines in April are, your deadlines are due to me at that email address by 5 p.m. on April 8th. And that is because we need to merge them all together into one PowerPoint presentation for NAU TV. And then the preliminary heats will be April 10th and April 14th. If you cannot, I do have a few people that will be at conferences, so if there's only one that you can do, please contact me immediately and let me know, so I make sure when I schedule everybody that there's not a time conflict. And then lastly, April 16th is the final presentation and reception. We encourage everyone to be there, because if for some reason our finalists, one of our finalists can't come, we will have the runner-ups, and I may be contacting you that afternoon to say, hey, you want to give your presentation today? So you might want to come if you're within, oh yeah, go ahead.
Did you change the dates from the 10th to the 11th to the 10th? Or was it always the 10th?
Oh,
Is it Thursday or Friday?
It's actually a Friday and a Monday.
Then it's the 11th.
Okay, so that may be my,
Okay.
you might be right. It's,
So it is April 11th.
okay.
Great.
Do we know what time on those days?
Yeah.
I was thinking probably in the afternoon on both days. One of them's a Friday. I don't think many
We
of
haven't lined up the judges, we're working with those schedules.
And so once, as soon as I have the judges and the schedule, I'll notify everybody and notify you which group you're in. And I'm sorry about that. It is April is the first group's preliminary heats. Yes.
And are those in Escher Store too, or where are they taking?
No, we are actually going to try and do those here. And so it will be you and the judge and a few of us, and then the people who are not presenting will just be hanging out in the library. Yes.
How many judges for the preliminary?
We're thinking about 3, between 3 and 5, and the preliminary judges will not be the same as our final judges.
And there will only be one presentation per heat from each student. It's not like you're going through multiple.
Right, we only have 30, so we're just going to do, each person goes through a preliminary, and then we'll choose some from each of those to go on to the final.
So we will announce by the 14th evening, all the finals will be announced. And you have another day to practice.
10 finalists? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. We may go up to 12, just depending on the time, but 10 is our plan. I might feel better with 12. We're still naming that because of some,
last minute things. And this is our first year doing this, so everything's a little fluid. But any other questions about the timeline? And I do encourage you, if you want to practice in either this room or one of the other 2 studios, that you schedule that sooner rather than later. Because these...
Summer, your advice?
Yeah, you can schedule them 2 weeks out, up to 2 weeks out. And they fill up really quickly. All these rooms fill up really quickly back here the day of. So as soon as you know you're going to have some free time, even if it's just a couple of days in advance, give us a call at the main desk, and we'll see if we can, get that reserved for you.
And bring a friend with you so they can watch you. As Grant was saying, it doesn't hurt to practice. So bring a friend with you. The nice thing about using the studio, these recording rooms, is you don't have to carry the equipment, and if you ride a bike to school, it gets kind of challenging. So these are soundproof rooms, so it's really nice. Plus you have great assistance. So.
We're here for you. Yeah, and like this camcorder here is actually available for checkout on a 4-hour basis only. So there should always be a camcorder here, but these also can be booked in advance. So if you know that you would rather use one of these rather than the built-in cameras on the iMac, for example, so that you can configure the room a little differently, then you can reserve this too.
Any other questions?
And I think if they want to schedule a time and have, say, somebody in the studios to watch them, they can do that too, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of your friends and you want a more neutral research librarian or one of the library specialists.
The library is very invested in the success of this event, and they are here to help. You have a great resource with even just using the research librarians for feedback on your presentation.
And your slide, and help, if you're struggling with something. And we're here to give you as much support, Unlike other competition where you're kind of on your own. Because I'm viewing this not just as giving you support, as kind of professional development. This is going to help you for the rest of your life, some of the skills that you get going through this.
So I met with one of the research librarians earlier. Is there a list of those who are available to send out an email to several to ask if there is a...
So there is an actual list, and I'll show it to you at the end of the presentation, that shows the name of the research librarian by their area. Okay. And so you can contact the one that you need to speak with if you're in SBS or if you're in Seconds.
They tend to know those disciplines. The people associated with their college are the experts in your discipline. So
should it then be a better idea to contact somebody outside? Because that's...
No, this is just for your text in that context, the research librarian. So that should be in your discipline. But you're right, when you're actually presenting and you want to present, it might help to talk to people who are not in your discipline. Now they understand.
Yeah.
So if you bring your fellow, what's your?
I'm a biologist.
So if you bring a fellow biology student, they're not going to realize that that word was kind of over the top.
I encourage you to actually bring your friends that are not in your degree program, or find a resource in here. Someone who we have someone from every single college represented except business. So make a friend and find a time to present to each other, because that's actually a great resource right in this room.
Because they actually, everyone in this room has now seen, you know, they have some kind of level of, you know, what's the standard.
You had a question?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Could you send out the PowerPoint to us as a group? So
Yes,
we have the
so
resource?
all of this information will be on the 3MRP website, which is
The
NAU.
presentation too?
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay, great.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Everything
And
will
the
be up there.
recording too, we have
And then
recording.
once I figure out the
Oh,
best
okay.
way to put the recording up there, I will either post it on the web or a Dropbox account. I'll let you know where it is as soon as I figure out the best way to do that. So these resources will be there. If you have questions, I'm the person who checks that 3MRP email address. Please email me, call me at my office, 523-4338. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me.
And then the other question was about the time limit, because it says on here with the rules that, you know, if you go over 3 minutes, you're disqualified. But some of those last ones go to like 3:15.
That's because they have so if I'm introducing you, that's not counted in the 3 minutes. And then the second one, they also recorded the judge's feedback. And so after each person presented, yes, the judges then gave them feedback on what they liked about the presentation and what they could work on. So that's why those were a little bit longer.
Okay.
But yeah, so yours
Hard
is
off at 3 minutes,
yeah.
just stop talking.
Ramona will introduce you. We'll show the slide with your name and your
So Dan,
title.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Dan Kane will introduce you,
We haven't
and then it'll move to your slide. And the minute you either start speaking or you move, then we will start talking. So don't just stand there like this. We won't start, but yeah.
So in terms of the title will be first.
Yeah, so you'll actually have, you guys will send me a slide, and then I will put together a slide that has your name, your degree program, and your main advisor. And you can have a different title for your presentation versus your thesis. A lot of the ones I've seen have a much catchier title for their presentation. I don't know about you guys, but I did my master's thesis on prehistoric cliff dwellings, and my title was really long and not that interesting. So think of something a little catchier, and we can do both of them. So we can do your title of your presentation as well as your thesis or dissertation title. And then those will all be, and there'll be someone here who clicks through that, and then we'll move to your slide, and then you'll start your presentation. Any other questions? Yes.
So we could change our title from the title we put in the abstract?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
So what I need from you on and I'll send out a reminder, but on April 8th, I need your final slide and whether any of the information has changed, and then the name of your.
You probably make
name
you fill out the name, and
yeah.
I think they had advisors, so you're giving.
And I think I have, so unless your advisor's changed, it'll be the one that you submitted on the form.
And you may definitely, after viewing all this, you definitely want to think about the title of your presentation.
I've seen some really snazzy ones.
So.
Any other questions?
I think. Is Kurt coming? We have one more presenter who's going to talk in the visual slide, but it is in the PowerPoint, some of the points. It's also in the handouts if you got. So, yeah, I think that's trying to do that.
All right, so this slide created. So I'll just really briefly about the slide. I do encourage you to watch the YouTube videos. I've posted some on the 3MRP website, and then if you just Google 3MT on YouTube, search for that, you'll find a lot, and a lot of them are either the winners of the finals or the semifinals, so they're really quite good. I was watching one about cantilevers and engineering yesterday, and I was like, wow, that's actually interesting. And no offense to any of you engineers, but I was like, really, that one? I don't think I want to watch. But less is more. One of the ones I saw that was on identification, it was 2 pictures, and they were both cartoon figures, and one of them was a guy just dressed in normal clothes, and the other one was a caricature of a Chinese guy with the hat and a bowl of noodles. And this guy was talking about, though, even though he is Australian, he looks like he's Asian, and so people automatically think he's Asian. And so it's like, this is what I think I look like, but this is what people think I look like. And I was like, wow, that's actually a really powerful slide. And then of course, I really like Jenny's slide, and she had a few pictures, minimal text, but she really got the point across. And so really less is more. I do have a template for the slide, and I can post that on the web if you're interested. It gives some suggestions on font size and that kind of thing. Do you have any questions about the slide?
So for presentation-wise, I've made posters using PowerPoint. Is it something where we should make the slide actually bigger? No, so just do a regular.
Just do a regular old PowerPoint slide. And if you're not going to use PowerPoint, go ahead and contact me because we'll need to discuss that. I would prefer that everybody use PowerPoint. I didn't make it part of the rules in case someone really wants to do something different, but it is easier if you use PowerPoint. And yeah, just make a regular old one-slide PowerPoint presentation, and that's it. Yes, ma'am?
Does there need to be a title on it?
No, and I have seen some. So your title will actually be on the first slide, and I've seen some that are just the pictures. Yeah, and I'm doing that. So you can just send me one that's just a picture of Luke Skywalker if you want. Don't use my picture.
Like I think I mentioned the English student, she just took a picture, it was of this manuscript. That was her slide. It needs to work for your project, that's the key, you know. So there's no one rule fits all. So.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to thank you all for submitting abstract. We're really, we were very nervous, Kirsten and I, on how many people would actually participate, especially when you're doing something new. And so I'm grateful to each and every one of you for submitting an abstract and being willing to participate in this inaugural competition. We've never had a campus-wide